Welcome to Cyber Conversations, the show where it's okay to agree to disagree. So today we're going to be talking, it's going to be me, Bob, Heather, Michael, and Matthew. Today we are talking about The Avengers, the 2012 movie, the first of the, where Marvel actually put together the building blocks that they had been working on so far. So we got a movie that featured Iron Man and the Hulk and Thor and Captain America and Black Widow and Hawkeye, and put them all together for our first actual Avengers movie. I love this movie, and I've already said it before, but this is my favorite Phase 1 movie. Though I don't know if it's fair to say that, because this is the movie that combines everything. I knew it was going to be my favorite.
Yeah, I think that the feeling on the team up, the trailer that we had after Captain America, just everything leading up to this movie was just a level of excitement that we hadn't had in I don't know how long, if ever. I mean, something like this was just huge. All these individual movies, and then when we get this big giant team up.
We've discussed it a little bit before, but there was a lot of risk taken in this movie, because when studios make movies, and I used to say, why didn't they take Christopher Reeve, who was playing Superman, and Michael Keaton, who was at the time playing Batman, and put them together to make a movie featuring both of them? And I was told by someone in the know that the reason they don't do that is because it's not considered a risk of one movie. It risks all of the franchises. So Superman by himself is a franchise, Batman is a franchise, and then putting them both together is a third franchise. So if this movie failed, it could potentially ruin all of them. So that's why studios had traditionally shied away from this type of thing. And Kevin Feige said he didn't care, and he did it, whether the money men cared or not. He was the visionary, and he pushed it forward. And I think it's a good thing that he did.
At the time when it came out, was anybody a little skeptical of the hype that it was getting before seeing it? Like they this is supposed to be this epic, collaboration with all these superheroes from all these movies that you've seen over the years. Were you worried that it would fail, or like you said, like not land well?
It was not, I mean, the times were a little bit different, because we didn't have people hating everything just for the sake of hating it. I didn't hear as many naysayers. I did hear a few people thinking that it wasn't going to be the best movie of all time, but I was pretty certain I was going to love it.
My thing that I thought about was, how are they going to put all these big characters in one movie and give them an equal amount of screen time? That was my big thing, because again, we had standalone movies for all these characters, and they were already larger than life with how they were portrayed on the screen, and it was like, wow, how do you put all these people together on a team and not feel like one is less than the other? And I think that it obviously did an excellent job.
For the most
part.
Like,
what was it going to be pulling in too many different directions and just be chaotic?
Right.
Yeah.
And to be fair, they did leave one character out, like, largely of the movie, and it was part of the story, and it made sense. But it was also, it did give one character less to do than everyone else, and that's Hawkeye. He definitely was used less in this movie, but I think it was okay. I don't want to say it was okay completely. A lot of people were not familiar with Hawkeye, and this movie didn't do anything to boost his popularity, because for most of this movie, he's not a good guy.
I think it did a good job of kind of setting up who he was. You're right, he was not as well known, but now we get a little more view of him, and then how that, being taken over by Loki, like, affected him, in the future movies.
Oh, definitely. I'm not complaining or anything. It's just, of all of the characters, like, Joss Whedon did a really good job of making sure that all of the heroes had a lot of screen time, and if he shortchanged anyone, it was Hawkeye.
Well, it was a good introduction to his character. I mean, it's the first time we
I agree.
really, I mean, we saw him in Thor 1, but no one actually knew who he was until
Right.
this film.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think showing that, because we just watched it right before this, and I guess I didn't really pay attention to his and Black Widow's conversation when she knocks him out of the mind control, that he's like
Hmm.
battling with himself, that he's like, I've never been evil before. You know what I mean? So it's nice to show the audience like he's always been a good guy. This is like it's just I don't know. It was a good way of showing like who he was right there in that moment.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I didn't mean to sound like I was complaining about it. I think this was a great introduction to him, and it showed people that he is a hero. But I also think that if they were going to shortchange someone, like they did shortchange him.
Mhm.
He got less
Well,
screen time
yeah,
and less, yeah,
he hasn't gotten a full movie, right? He got a show, but he
he
didn't
got a
get a full
show, but he
movie.
has not had a standalone
Right.
movie.
And all the others, at least eventually, had a movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love this movie. I think this is a top 10 Marvel movie, and I was really excited for it back in 2012. I feel like the energy around it was pretty palpable. Not that we've haven't had exciting superhero movies prior to that, prior to the release of the Avengers, but since I don't know, I would say since Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movies, one and two, I don't think there had been a level of excitement for a movie like this in a long, long time. Um, because we had some disappointments up until this point too, right? Like we had Superman Returns, which was supposed to be the big comeback for Superman, and then it was kind of a letdown. You had X-Men 3, which was supposed to be the ultimate X-Men movie, and that was kind of a letdown. I know we've talked about those movies before.
They did have The Dark Knight.
Sure, yeah, that was very critically successful, and I think that had a larger impact on movies going forward. But the Avengers, I mean, the build up to this, we hadn't seen anything like it before. So I remember being very excited going to the theater for this. For the Hawkeye point, I think it was fine to sideline him. I like his show. He's not that interesting of a character.
Oh,
Uh,
oh.
not to be mean, Jeremy Renner does a great job. It's just like he's a guy who shoots bows and arrows, and he's also a secret agent. And we already got that with Black Widow. Like we know,
To be fair, like and I don't want to say anything negative about the character because I do like him, but I did talk to my daughter. I wanted her to be on this show, but she's got a cold. Yeah, she thinks he's boring too.
uh,
Like
Oh
relatively
my
speaking.
gosh.
compared.
No,
Relatively speaking.
yeah.
Isn't that the point of his character? Is that he is a more grounded
Mu-
character
yes, much
with
more subtle. Yeah.
Sure.
like he is not the we're in this illusion of oh someone can build a suit out of armor, a guy can turn green and grow really big. Like he is just who he is. He is a human
Well,
man with no powers, you
I
that's
think
why
know.
I
that's why I
said
really liked the
relatively.
show. I really liked the show for
Yeah.
Hawkeye
Hmm.
because you got more of him. Um,
Yes,
yeah.
But
I
that's why
agree
I
with that.
said relatively speaking. My daughter
All right, all
likes
right, all
him.
right.
She just thinks that he's boring compared to everyone else.
And I mean, but who
Welcome to
would
the
you?
show today, guys, where we talk about Hawkeye. This is the Hawkeye show. I thought we were
Well,
doing
he's part of the
Avengers,
Avengers.
Who
He's
would
but
part of the
you?
yeah,
Avengers.
he's
Yes. Okay.
We're gonna
Out of
dissect each character separately.
out
That's
of
what
the
it's
Oh
gonna be.
gosh,
six,
12 hours later.
out of the six, who would you sideline though? Because if they had sidelined Captain
Oh,
America or
I
Thor,
agree.
everybody
Like,
would have been
yeah.
mad, you know.
Yeah,
So
no, I agree
Thor
with you. I
was
think
kind of
that
a background character if you think about it. I mean, he really is. I thought in the first two Avengers movies, he's very much a smaller character till the third one. Like he's just kind of there to just, I guess, tie in with the Loki situation, you know?
yeah, I could see that. He's a plot
Yeah,
device a little bit.
I see that too. I mean, there was, the big fights, that he was involved in, but yeah, as a character, it was more Loki as far as the Asgard side.
I think that again though, like they couldn't have deep emotional movements between characters for everyone. There was movement of Tony Stark and there was movement of Steve Rogers. They couldn't do that for Thor as well. The movie would have been 5 hours long if they did it for everyone. There wasn't a whole lot of movement for Black Widow except for her whole wrestling with how to, how to save her friend. because this was the movie that really showed the friendship that she has with Hawkeye.
Yeah, the closest they did touching on Thor and anything sentimental was, him caring about um uh what's her name, safety
Jane
in the
Jane
yeah,
Foster.
James,
Yeah, the one
yeah.
one throwaway scene with
Yeah, yeah. Like, oh, she's safe. It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to have those tie together things where they reference all the other
well
ones.
they also had to give a reason why she wasn't in the movie.
That's true. It's
Yeah,
part of the
Michael.
budget.
Michael had a good point. Michael, bring up your point about who should have been in the Avengers, since we're kind of
Oh
on
yeah,
this.
we were watching it today, and they're like, the army's taking forever to get here. But then I was thinking in my head, I'm like, well, where is Rhodey? He has an Iron Man suit as well. Shouldn't he have flown in and been part of that battle? I mean, we don't need every hero in every movie because sometimes they could be busy. But at the time, thinking about it, I'm like, what was Rhodey doing? I mean, he was involved with Tony so much in Iron Man 2. Where
Yeah,
was he?
Rhodey
What took
probably
him
should
so
have
long?
had they should have at least had some reason for him not being there.
Like he could have just made a cameo like he did in Age of Ultron. At least he popped up and kind of helped out a little bit and he was there. Like that made sense.
Yeah, and in other movies, when someone hasn't been there, they've always made a little point of throwing something in.
They probably couldn't have Rhodey in because if he had been there, he would have been the one to fly the nuke
Oh,
into the
into the
wormhole at the end
portal,
of the
and
movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Coming back to that original question of how we felt about the movie when it first came out, I still think this movie's really great, though. I think rewatching Phase One, I haven't rewatched all of them in a row in a really long time. I think it's just a good movie. And Phase One is criminally underrated, looking back on it. So, I didn't really think about the War Machine point, mostly because, again, not that interesting of a character. Cooler than Hawkeye, but still not that interesting. And
Not
I
cooler
feel
than
like if
Hawkeye.
you had spread the cast that thin, like adding one more hero, I don't know, this movie was pretty stuffed already, even at 2.5 hours. It's like, how much more could you have added?
It didn't feel stuffed though.
Not stuffed, but it was so packed full of like, if you had deviated anywhere in this film, I mean, it had a point on what it wanted to do. And if you had deviated by throwing a scene with Rhodey in there, I think it would have possibly derailed a little bit of that narrative. So,
Yeah, I
Again,
think you're
some
right
of
on
some of
that.
that pulling it in too many directions
hmm
kind of thing.
hmm
Yeah, yeah.
Because watching it again today, it does feel, I mean, it is the first Avengers film, so we could look at it as like it's an origin story. And what you see, or at least what I noticed now being older and watching it again for the millionth time, is there is so much character development between the six characters trying to figure out how to work together, how to talk to each other. Tony's being arrogant, Captain America thinks he's all almighty, and they're just like fighting, but it's cool to see that start of it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to jump into was is the dialogue of the movie. I felt like every character kind of had their own dialogue. Obviously, it was previous, but it was like, how do you mesh that with all the other characters? You know, Captain America had a certain tone, the way he talked. And then you think about it in Avengers, some of the things he said. You know, I brought it up before. The whole "aren't the Stars and Stripes a little old fashioned?" or the part where they're like, Black Widow's like, "Hey, you might want to sit this one out because those guys are basically gods." And he's like, "There's only one God, man, and he doesn't dress like that." You think of Tony's, you know, how he talks, his arrogance, and how they brought that all together. I think that the dialogue really set the characters apart, but I thought it did a really good job of bringing it all together and how they all mesh together. I know what you guys' thoughts on them was that.
Well, I think that the important thing to recognize is that the dialogue is these characters talk the way they do because of the way they're written, and the dialogue is written specifically by Joss Whedon. And this, like, it's important to differentiate. I'm not talking about him as a person. If you don't know what I'm talking about, viewers, you can look up. There's ample information online about things that have come to light about him since then. But as a writer, I think he's beyond reproach. He did an incredible job as a writer. Well, maybe not a beyond reproach though, because he also did the theatrical version of Justice League. But we're not going to talk about that right
Well,
now.
yeah, and there's a whole nother thing with Justice League on to why that was the way it was. The other thing that he did well was and I know a lot of movies do it this way. I'm thinking of Batman versus Superman, but he did a good job, Joss Whedon, with the conflict between the characters before the unity, if that makes sense, before they actually became the Avengers. He stuck with both their internal conflict and then how they were trying to help each other. And I think that this is my opinion. I think that he did a good job of Captain America kind of being up like the top level of that, trying to kind of keep everything together. Obviously, he becomes the leader.
He's the moral good.
We have this whole thing that leads up to the point where they finally form as a team. And then we have we've talked about Agent Coulson before and how he was always in every movie and kind of like the link between the movies. And he got more and more. And then he finally dies in this movie, or we think he dies. And Agents of
No
Shield.
spoilers.
And no spoilers. And although if you haven't seen it in the last 14 years, you should watch the Avengers. But anyway,
You mean Agents of Shield?
both.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I think that that was another thing that he did really well. I don't know what you guys thought about that, where everybody kind of comes together separately, bringing their own personalities, and then conflict team.
I think that dialogue writing did really capture all these individual personalities that you come to know from the prior movies, and then bring it all together to, like, how do all these different personalities, evidenced by the way they are, now, how do they all learn to work together? So I think it was well done.
I think the dialogue is exceptional in this movie, and I kept thinking that the entire time I was rewatching it, and almost finished it today. I think each character had their own identity, probably even more so than they did in their own movies. And that's not to say or discredit the other directors and writers of the movies prior, but you could definitely feel these characters have been improved upon.
I think seeing them side by side, like, you get to compare and contrast all those different personalities.
Yeah,
When they're in their own movie, you don't see that contrast, but this really brought out all the contrast of the different types of personalities and motivations with all these different superheroes and where they're coming from.
Could you say it's also because the actors were starting to get more comfortable because it's
sure.
all technically their second, well, it was Robert Downey Jr.'s third film, but everyone else's second film where they were like, okay, we've established how the character is. Now, how do we
Oh yeah, they all got to lean
essentially,
into those characters more. Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
grow the
Yeah.
character more and more and add what
Yeah.
they think is appropriate or what they've learned.
Sure, the way they acted and portrayed the characters, but the writing itself and even Tony's one-liners, I feel like were more prevalent and more strongly written than Favreau had possibly written a few in Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. I mean, that's how I felt, and I feel like Captain America was even more by the book than he was in the first Avenger. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I felt watching the
That is
movie.
true. Yeah, Captain America was really right on he was very much a soldier in this one. And he's very much like, we're going to war. I don't know. Yeah, it was different than the first film, the
And
first Captain America
Thor,
film.
Yeah,
Thor
I
was
think it demonstrated the confidence that had grown in
mhm,
the new version of Steve Rogers, now awake in the future.
mhm.
Like, he had to come to terms with that, but now he's pretty solid on what he wants to bring to the table.
Speaking
I
of
don't know.
Steve Rogers, and I'm kind of inserting a point here. I thought it was interesting because I didn't realize it until this rewatch, that they did they kind of, since Captain America: The First Avenger was the last movie we got before Avengers, the punching bag scene, and you get that quick recap of Captain America: The First
Yeah,
Avenger.
he's like
To,
flashing back.
yeah, he's flashing back to when he wakes up in the ice, and then he hits it. And I thought that was, I didn't realize it, but Josh, you've mentioned it several times about how they weave in the previous things that have happened to kind of catch you up on the story. And I thought that was kind of I hadn't really thought about that before, because you just see it as, oh, he's flashing back to everything that happened to him, but it does tell a very quick 1 minute Cliff Notes version of Captain America to get why he is, why he is the way he is.
Well, and I think for me, one thing that was particular with that scene was they left the previous movie in kind of this sad moment. He's waking up and the world is all different. And then that punching bag scene, now he's angry about it. And I think that that was an interesting, push. And again, in that vein of confidence, and he wants to do something now.
Yeah,
Versus,
he even
like
says it.
he wasn't just feeling the emotion. Now, he wants to do something, and I kind of like that
Yeah, he's
development.
definitely he's upset. You can tell because he had a date. That was how the movie
Mhm.
ended. And now you see he's punching that punching bag and he's not holding back to the point that the punching bag goes flying across the room
Yeah.
and he's got a line of others ready to go.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and then when Nick Fury's talking to him and Cap is like, "You're trying to get me out into the world."
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
no, because he was ready to just stay in the gym and punch because he didn't really want to be in the world. He was reluctant. And Nick Fury, I got the sense, maybe just me, but I got the sense that Nick Fury had already been trying to get him into the world. This,
Right.
and he was being subtle about it. And that this time he wasn't actually being subtle. He wasn't there to bring him out into the world because he thought it was healthy. He was bringing him into the world because he needed him.
Well, yeah, and I coming back to character development, I think of the Hulk talking about his anger. There's the scene where he's
mm,
holding the scepter and he's like, "You want to know how I stay calm, and you want to know how it, like, and then finally he
Mhm.
reveals at the end. I'm thinking of the Cap versus Tony philosophies, that how they each view the world and view what they're going to do, and that ends up culminating in Civil War, which we'll get to. But I think there's a lot of, again, when it comes to the dialogue and it comes to the characters, they're all so very well done in their distinctiveness, my opinion. And but then they end up meshing together and create this that continues on. Like Matthew said, it's like phase one is just underrated. And I know that when I say that, I don't know, Matthew, how you feel about it, but when I say that it's underrated, I mean, like, I don't think we give enough credit now, especially now, because it's been 14 years, or, well, it's been 17, carry the one, what, 18 years since Iron Man 1 came out now. And it's, those, that phase one set of movies, I think, was just so well done and put together. Whether you like the standalones or whatever else, the fact that they put this thing together and wrapped it all up in a bow and gave everybody what they wanted, because everybody, you got all these characters, they all have their own fans. I love Iron Man, I love Thor, I love the Hulk, and in this one, when you think about the Hulk, for instance, you have to think about how they it's not like they got rid of the Incredible Hulk movie, because that does count as a phase one movie, but they basically had to kind of rewrite it and redo it, bring in a new actor for it, and get everybody to like it again. So I think that with the character development, the continued character development, and the way those came together, again, just kind of want. I mean, there's a lot of philosophical points. Like Loki's speech to Black Widow was like, I mean, his delivery on that was like almost Oscar worthy. He's spewing a little bit on the glass. Like, it was just so well delivered, and how that stuff was.
Well, definitely. And again, it all has to do with the writing and it's if you like this kind of writing, I stress again, watch Firefly because that's a perfect example of how you bring in an ensemble of characters and you have some drama, but you also have a healthy dose of humor to keep things tied, to keep things a bit lighthearted, but you still keep that connective tissue. I don't know how many other people could write it as well as this one was
as,
written.
I think it laid the groundwork as well for a lot of upcoming movies like Civil War. It showed that rift immediately, and
hmm
Yeah.
you could feel it between Tony and Captain America. And no matter what side of the aisle you stand on between those two, even to this day, some people get pretty heated about that. You can just feel their tension, but then they come together with the helicarrier scene, and they work together. Like danger strikes, and they're like, "Well, never mind. We're going to set aside our
We have to,
differences,
yeah, we
and
have to work together to get this.
and
This
we're
is a
g-
more immediate threat.
yep." And I really think using not just those moments, but also Coulson as the unifying factor with um, the manipulation of Nick Fury, the emotional string pulling there that he throws with the cards. I think that was a really clever choice as well, because he was in all those movies, and he touched each one of those characters, maybe with the exception of the Hulk. But and that's why he didn't have a scene with him really. But all the other characters that he impacted, and Thor watches him die, and um, I don't know. I thought that was a really great narrative decision, and I thought it was an even greater narrative decision to show that Shield will manipulate to get what it wants, using the Captain America cards as the example for that point. So,
I do miss Phil Coulson. I watched Agents of Shield too, and
mhm,
but still, I liked having him in the movies. And part of it is because Clark Gregg is just he's really a great guy to play Phil Coulson. And not that I mean Phil Coulson was written for the movies. It's not like a character from the comic books,
right.
but I really like the performance he gives. And I like the character. He grew on me very quickly. So I was sad to see him leave, but it did make sense, and it especially as you said in the context of using his supposed death to bring together these heroes, use it as a unifying bond.
I like that there is conflict and tension between these heroes because they're all different and they all come from different backgrounds, and I think they wrote that very well to set up, especially for something like Civil War, because I feel like they had a plan to eventually break them up, the team, because it's everyone's thinking they're better than the other, or they think that they're right when it comes to handling um situations like this. So I think it was written very well, and Coulson was the I don't know. I don't want to say heart, but I'm going to say heart. He was like the heart of the team because he was always so positive, and he helped bring everyone together. So when Loki killed him, it definitely struck a nerve that was kind of like the wake up call to everyone of like, we need to stop fighting with one another. We need to just work through this because people like him, people who are good and innocent, will die.
I guess I would say, I appreciate that Colson's the one who kind of sees the potential for the good in each of these characters and tries to bring that out and bring that together. So I like that. I think I was a little bothered by kind of the the underhandedness of like the deception part that using deception to do it bothered me a little bit, I guess, on Fury's part. The cards thing. The fact that that was a lie kind of bothered me a little.
Well, and
But
it
like,
obviously it bothered Agent Hill because she said those were in his locker, and he goes, "Well, they needed the push."
but that also ties back to what was said in this movie about what Tony Stark said about Fury. He's the
Well,
spy.
yeah,
He's
keeping
the
secrets. Yeah,
spy.
yeah,
Yeah. His
yeah. In
secrets have
general,
secrets.
yeah. In general, the fact that there are so many secrets was like it that I didn't like that part of it. Um, I will say I think one of the things that makes the conflict work so well, and again into future movies and everything else, this development here is that they all seem to have reasonable arguments based on their um, where they came from.
Oh, yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, and so the fact that you can kind of relate to both sides of that argument, um, I think was well done in terms of capturing those personalities and then following that through into future movies.
You also mentioned Maria Hill, and I was actually thinking about her too, because she was played well by Kobe Smulders. Is that
Smolders,
her
yep.
name?
Hmm.
Yeah, but I also know Maria Hill in the comics is portrayed very, very differently. And I kind of prefer her this way. At least that's not to say, because I don't read the comics that much. I just know I have enough knowledge of them to know about that. In the comics, Maria Hill is much more of an antagonist against Nick Fury. She doesn't work with him. She was director of Shield for a while, specifically because she was against Nick Fury and against the Avengers. She's not very friendly toward them. In this movie, they made her much more of an ally. And I think for the purposes of the MCU, I think that works. Although, on the other hand, I don't know why they didn't just create another character.
Hmm.
Just probably for the comic book poll.
Yeah.
I mean, they do that from time to time. They go into the deep lore and pull those characters out, those legacy characters. I still can't
Yeah.
see respect to Kobe Smulders and how she portrayed Hill. I still can't see her as anything but Robin Scherbatsky from How I Met Your Mother. But she did a good job in this movie, playing a straight-laced, I guess, I don't know, agent, soldier, I guess.
Yeah. I like the character as she appears in the movie more than the way she's portrayed in the comics.
Hmm.
And I think part of it is because of Kobe Smulders. There's also another, just because I don't want to forget, this is really quick, but there's also another very small performance by a great actor that goes on into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's the character of Gideon Malik, who's on the council, and he's portrayed by Powers Booth, who's a
Oh
great
yeah,
actor.
love
And he
Powers
only
Booth.
appears, yeah, he only appears in a couple of scenes, and he did go on to portray Gideon Malik in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But this was his first appearance, and I like when I first saw the movie, I saw it was Powers Booth. I was like, oh, that's cool, it's Powers Booth, but I didn't really know who he was in the MCU. But of course, he became a pretty important character. So now when I see this movie, I notice him and I'm like, oh, it's Powers Booth. Gideon Malik is here. So,
Um, yeah, one of the I want to bring us to because there's obviously the big battle at the end, but there are so many great fight scenes in this movie. And one of the conversations Michael and I were talking about was, how well the CGI was done, and it still looks really good. But talk about your like, what do you think your favorite, other than we'll get to the end fight scene, but like maybe your favorite fight scene, because again, we're talking about conflict between all the characters, so everybody gets a little, the Thor Hulk scene is like my favorite,
Yeah, the
but I
Thor
kind of
Hulk
want
scene is really good.
but I wanted to talk about just you guys talk about like your favorite little fight scene.
Well, I was saying it today. It's the when Banner first turns into the Hulk on the ship, and he's chasing after Black Widow. I always say this, and I say this to everyone. I think out of everything in the MCU, it is the part where it shows him running after her in slow motion. It is
mhm.
probably the most perfect CGI I've ever seen. It is like the most iconic shot of him running after her. Like it really shows who the Hulk is with his anger and that he just attacks everyone. So I always thought that's not really a fight scene between her and him, but the chase scene enough, like just the 30 seconds that we got of it. I mean, it makes him a scary character. They did such a good job
Mhm.
just making him
Mm.
come off almost like a monster, chasing her through like a basement, basically,
They
you
even put a
know?
jump scare in it.
They did, yeah. And like I said, if you ever go back and watch it, just like pause that slow-mo shot of him running after her, and I think it's just flawless with the CGI. It is probably the most flawless thing that I've seen out of any of the MCU movies.
I wanted to point out something since you brought that up right away, and this is just me looking forward now that we've had other movies, is I wonder if, because Black Widow seems to not really be afraid of anything. I mean, we get her being interrogated there at the beginning and she's pretending to be afraid, but she's interrogating them, the Russian guys.
Oh, I was
And
going
Right,
to bring
right.
that up.
yeah, but when you bring that up, but what I was going to point out is it seems like out of all the things Black Widow has experienced that we have seen or known about, it's the Hulk, it's Banner that scares her the most, and I wonder if that's not what causes her to, when we get to future movies where she kind of falls for him because
Yeah, this is a
he's the
guy
one, he's a variable that she doesn't know what to do with, and therefore she's attracted to him. Anyway, just a little food for thought. But yeah, Josh, go ahead.
I had made this note for myself anyway, and when you ask what our favorite fight scenes, I keep trying to, because I do love all of these different fight scenes, but I kept coming back to that opening scene with Black Widow. And she has two scenes like this in this movie, and so I don't know if I want to talk about it as my favorite fight scene or just Black Widow herself. But I love that in two scenes in this movie that are focused solely on her, well, not solely, but focused mostly on her, is that she portrays something very, very different than what is actually going on in her head. In the opening scene, she's acting like she's being interrogated, and she's at the mercy of the Russian bad guys, the nameless villains. And then Coulson calls her, and she's like, "What do you want? I'm working. These guys are throwing everything they've got at me." And the bad guy's like, "I'm not throwing everything." And he's like, "We have to bring you in." And when he finally says, "Barton's been compromised," then she stops. "Let me put you on hold." And then boom, she was never at their mercy. She was just waiting. And I love that whole scene because it shows how incredible she is, in what she
At what she
does.
does. Yeah.
Yeah, she
I like
portrayed.
that. I like that in when she was talking with Loki toward the end of the movie too.
Yeah, that's the other scene that I was going to
That
mention.
flipping that switch and
Yeah,
like
she's
that's
crying
it.
in
I
front
got
of
you. Thank
Loki.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's trying to get this information from Loki, but she's acting like she's miserable. She's crying. She's scared of Loki. She's scared of what's going to happen to Barton. And then as soon as Loki lets slip, he plans on letting loose the monster. She immediately stops. She's finished with her interrogation. Thank you for your cooperation.
Right.
And I was just like, boom, she just sold it. She just
Yeah. Yeah.
tore
Yeah.
him a
Yeah.
new
I
one.
like those moments. Yeah.
So that's why I love Black Widow so much. But that also, I think, qualifies as my favorite fight scene is at the beginning of the movie.
I think those are the best like kind of subterfuge kind of scenes. The fight with like you're saying with Thor and the Hulk, I think was the most impressive. And I loved at one point Thor, who thinks he can, just be everything, had this look on his face like, what? Like, oh my goodness, this is a real challenge for me. So I think I liked catching that as well. Somebody to match him
Yeah.
in terms of just the strength.
Though he still has a smirk on his face when he calls Mjolnir to him.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's still
But
smiling
you
as
get
he
that
thinks,
just that little momentary like, oh, this is a real competitor. I think I enjoyed that little moment there.
And that paints the picture that we get to see the full fight in Ragnarok in the future.
Mm.
I don't think that was intentional, but it was nice to see the conclusion of that fight. My favorite fight scene is definitely the forest scene. It really
Mm.
starts off the movie well, right after they capture Loki, and you don't get the full ensemble right away together. There's been no conflict up until this point, and all of a sudden they're already at each other's throats,
yeah,
minus Captain America and Iron Man.
Yeah.
But you got the Thor and Loki scene, and that scene's so excellently written when they're on the cliffside, and then Iron Man interrupts it, and Loki has that clever one-liner where he's like, "I'm listening," and
Yes, 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 yes.
I love that scene. It's always entertaining, and it shows each character's strength. It shows Thor with his expertise with the hammer and then the lightning magic, but then it shows how Tony can utilize the
always has a
attacks
good
that
one-liner.
well, he has one-liners, but he also has the Shakespeare in the Park scene. That was funny.
Yeah.
But he uses Thor's lightning as a power source
Yep.
to
Mm.
fire back at Thor, and then Captain America uses the shield, unsure if it's even going to deflect anything, but it's also, from a material from outer space, unbeknownst to him. But I love that scene. I think it's
Yeah,
really
that's a
well
good one too.
done.
I think it helps to really set up, the impulsive, Avengers versus the ones who are trying to strategize,
Hmm.
and that impulsivity of Iron Man coming out in that moment, and then Captain just kind of like knock it off, kids.
Yep.
Like yeah,
Yeah.
get your act together. Can we do this now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love that too. The way Cap stops it by simply holding up his shield, and because it's vibranium, it absorbs Thor's hammer, and that stops them. And he's like, "Are we done?"
Yeah, no, I that scene is, yeah. For some reason, I somehow forgot about that scene until now. That is, yeah, that is a really well done scene, just showing the humor of Tony Stark, trying to antagonize Thor, which it's working. So, which shows Thor, not really still understanding the human mind and how they like to antagonize to get a rise out of someone. So it was Tony wanting to get the cube back and telling him like, oh no, we need the Tesseract, but he's also like, okay, let's have some fun. So it was nice to see that. And then of course Captain America coming in being the old soul and the I'm the parent of these children that are fighting right now.
Hmm.
Let me step in and show them who's boss. And all he had to do was lift up his hammer, block Thor, and then all three of them are just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess we're done. So
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. Again, my opinion is as we talk about it, you think about every fight scene, while good, they weren't gratuitous in the terms of they were just thrown in to throw it in. There always was a purpose. There was dialogue, there was character development that was associated with it. Yeah, it was cool to watch, but it did move things. Pretty much every fight scene did kind of move things forward a little bit. I don't think it was just thrown in there because we want to see people duke them out per se. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but again, just listening to you guys talk about it, I'm thinking about each one, and I was like, yeah, when the three of them first meet with Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America in the forest, it sets up, each one of their characters and kind of where they stand within the team. Every single one of them, all the little, conflicts they have one on one, and then other conflicts like Captain or Iron Man needs to get the engine working again because the engine goes down, and then Captain America's over there, and then you start to see how they're working together. There's even those sort of little fight scene, conflict scenes there. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it seems like if you look back on it, it's like, yeah, there's really it's not like it was, well, we should just throw this in because everybody wants to see this.
Just as a general statement, I think I really enjoyed the more intimate fights among the team members than I did the fighting that was happening against the bad guys in the movie. Like, I think those were more meaningful to me to see. Again, you're watching the Avengers and all the character development of these individuals. The bad guys are always the bad guys, and we all want to defeat the bad guys. But I think seeing the tension and the conflict within the team was far more interesting to watch those particular fight scenes.
Yeah. And it's done intentionally that way. Um, because each member of the team is very different. And this is a chance for them to kind of let those differences be seen. The filmmakers, this is the best way to show us their differences is to make it, is to expand, is to exaggerate their differences and, give it, put it into full out conflict, full blown conflict. And
Yeah,
that, of
really
course,
point
will
out the
play into,
contrast, the
yeah,
contrast between each one. Yeah.
Right. And then, obviously we come to the battle at the end, which is huge and epic. Everybody kind of has their place and what they're doing. Obviously, Captain America being the captain of his team of soldiers.
Yeah, you
I'm
go
air
here,
quoting.
you go
You
this.
guys,
Yeah.
you guys can't see me air quoting, but I'm air quoting the people listening. But I think that one of the things I had on there as a note was that long tracking shot that they do where he comes flying in when they're finally all kind of working together. Iron Man comes flying in, shoots his beam. Captain America aims the beam. Then they take off like that. That is, yeah, that's kind of seems to be. And then it cuts to each group of them working. You got Hulk and Thor on top of one of the, whatever those serpent things are. Yeah. And then it cuts to Hawkeye's doing his thing, Natasha's doing, she's got her thing going on, and it's like one big kind of like they're finally moving in a synergy as an actual team and working off of each other's strengths.
yeah,
But
they really understood how to write each character into that fight scene because Thor's the muscle and he's in the middle of the battle along with the Hulk, and then Captain America's just protecting the people. That's his purpose. Iron Man's trying to think technically and
Hmm.
scientifically, how do I take this down, right? And then Black Widow with her whole like, I've got rid of my ledger, I've got to clear it up. She's just jumping into wherever she needs to be where she can make the sacrifice play. She wants to turn off the portal, right? And then they put Hawkeye on the roof because that's his skill set, is that he is the lookout and he is keeping an eye out for things to make sure that they know where to go where they're needed most. And I thought that was written very well. throughout
Yeah,
even the
and the
whole
cat and the
film.
Captain America kind of,
leading.
leading that strategy. It's like, okay, you here, you here, you here, and kind of taking all those strengths and trying to put them where they were
Yeah,
most
but
useful
he
in that
That's why,
moment.
always
yeah,
went
Yeah.
to wherever there were people. He went to the cops and he
Yes.
was like, "You've got people in here, you've got people over
that
there."
was a,
Like
yeah, I was
he
gonna
was
say like
Yeah.
constantly,
that was
he
a
didn't
perfect
care.
scene for showing how he is a leader because he goes right up to the policeman and he's like, I need people, on this street all the way down. Don't let people go on the
Oh yeah,
streets.
yeah,
Make
that
sure
was a
they
great
go
scene.
underground. And the guy's like, "Why should I listen to you?" That was such a perfect scene because it
Yes, yeah.
shows Cap being a leader more than a soldier.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes,
Like
yes.
he the portal was shutting down the portal was the main goal, but eventually at the end of the day, he just was like, I don't care. I need to help people first. Like that was his main focus. That's what he knew that he had to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the New York battle. I think we again forget how cataclysmic it is. Again, rewatching it, it's a long segment of the movie. It's about 45 minutes almost, and it's just straight action. I love the one-track shot, and I love the spinning group shot. I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, pulled right from the comics,
Oh yeah,
where
that
they're
was
in,
the money shot.
yeah, and
That's
that's a
what I say. That's what I always say. Well, there's the money shot.
But no, I love the battle for New York. And I like its implications in the future movies, specifically in Endgame, when we get to see the Sorcerer Supreme and she's battling on the roof. Of course, you don't see that in this movie, but it's cool how they call back to it in future movies because it was so impactful. Um, and I do like how each character's strengths are portrayed in this scene. I do find that there's a little bit of narrative disconnect, and this is me just being picky. Um, how did Thor know to go to New York after falling wherever he fell? Obviously, the Hulk comes riding in on a motorcycle, but it's like this the city's destroyed. Where did he get a motorcycle? How did he get there? I don't know. That's just me being picky, in narrative continuity, but
Movie
it,
magic
yeah,
is always what I say. Movie
it's
magic.
suspension of disbelief. I think my one issue I take with the battle for New York is Thor. Thor, his power, he's the god of thunder, and it's always bugged me in a lot of the movies. He doesn't use his lightning very much, and he didn't use it very much in this scene, except for when he goes to the spire, um, and he strikes all of them in the portal. It's like, why didn't he just stay up there the whole time and do that the whole time?
Yeah, I did wonder that too.
So, but that's just
Hey,
me.
on a picky note, I've always been wondering, was that building even evacuated before he electrocuted the entire building? All those
It
people
was probably
died.
grounded, so I don't know if
No.
it was.
Like I said before, let's just use game James Gunn's method of, oh, Metropolis has been evacuated in 30 minutes. Okay, cool. That's what they did. I think
Yeah, I
they
mean,
it's right there.
it
It
may be
totally tells you.
unrealistic, but it is a comic book movie, you know?
No,
Yeah,
I need realism. I need
I
realism.
no, I'm not asking for
Yeah.
realism. It's just
When
sometimes
I saw the level of destruction going on, it's like,
Listen,
yeah, that's such overkill.
it doesn't matter who's still in the building. Thor was aura farming and he was rocking it. I mean, I mean, we could say that about people always point out that like Superman flew over that gas truck that just blows up a building in Metropolis. That was the same situation. You don't know if people are still in that building or not, but the heroes don't, they can't focus on everything at once.
yeah. No,
No, but
but
that's, you know, when it comes to Superman, like that was a big issue I had because Superman, like that's what he does is save people. Before, like that's why Captain America is my favorite Marvel character. Superman is my favorite DC character because they're very similar. They place the lives of people first, even if it means putting the whole stopping the bad guy thing on hold. It's more important that they save lives, and that is not something I got out of Cavill as Superman, and it is something I got from David Cornsweet, and that's what I get from Chris Evans uh, as Captain America.
Sorry, I bring up Superman and then we go off on how something DC always.
no, but
Sorry.
it's a fair point, Michael. Is the final battle between Zod and Superman and Man of Steel is very destructive in the same way that New York is destructive, and in the level of realism, a lot of people would die in
Yeah,
these
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
areas. And
Yes.
you can't watch these movies without being like, huh, if I was running around New York City while this was going on, would I survive? It's like when you watch The Walking Dead, it's like, would I survive the zombie apocalypse? Like, those thoughts just pass through your head. So,
But not for nothing, eventually the Marvel movies do circle back, and that becomes a very big
sure.
point is, how many people die in in the Battle of New York and in the Battle of Sokovia.
Yes, they do focus on that pretty well.
Yeah, they make a bigger deal about a Sokovia. I mean, they do the Sokovia Accords. I know we're kind of jumping ahead here, but they do the Sokovia Accords because it's like, oh my gosh, Sokovia, and
Yeah,
it's
the whole
like
city was lifted up.
right, but New York, well, granted, it wasn't the whole city. Granted, they were sending a nuke into
Yeah.
Manhattan. Thank you, Tony Stark, for sending that through the
Yeah.
portal.
But we don't know if
But
that was ever made public. I
I
got
don't
the
know.
sense they didn't because they would have lost public support right then and there.
Maybe,
The
maybe you're right, but it's like we kind of forget about, why didn't they have the New York Accords? Why didn't it matter then? I
Mm.
mean, at the very end of the movie of the Avengers, you have that one. It's showing all the montage of all the news footage, and the guy's like, "This is their mess. Why aren't they here? Where are the Avengers now? They need to clean this up." And that's like the only thing you get. Meanwhile, the
Mhm.
Sokovia thing is like just pounded into everybody,
Yeah, but
even though
Spider-Man Homecoming explains the mess crew that this
Yeah.
other
yeah,
government group comes in and they clean up the messes for them. So
oh,
everyone's
that's
just like, oh,
true.
true.
okay,
Yeah,
let's brush it off. And
Mhm.
yeah.
and I think that group was in the comic book. I can't remember what they were called. But
The
I
Vultures
mean, they
crew.
were they were they were
no,
part
not
of Shield.
vultures. They were the it was that lady with like this construction crew. I
Yeah,
can't even
they
remember
Oh,
what
were
they were
that's
they were
right.
called.
Shield. It was a division of Shield, I believe.
Vulture was hired by them to help clean up the mess. He was in one of the buildings where one of
He
the
wasn't hired by
Chitari.
them. That's why
He
they
was
took it away from him.
oh, that's right. Yeah, he
He
had his own
yeah,
company, and then they stepped in and were like, "We're gonna clean up."
yeah.
Mm,
So
yeah,
The
Um
DODC,
yeah,
yeah.
Department
is that what
Wasn't
it
there
was called?
something?
Department of Damage Control.
yeah.
Wasn't there
Mm.
That
something called Sword, or that is that what
That's
Shield
not in
becomes?
no, that's a division of Shield as well. That's outer space stuff where
Yeah,
Shield
Oh,
is
Sword
that's
more
is
right.
earthly.
Captain Marvel deals with that. I guess a lot of X-Men were involved in that, but we don't have the X-Men yet because of Fox. But yeah, Sword was a lot more about the mutants in outer space.
Got it. Yeah. Wanted to talk a little bit about, we think about all the crossovers since this movie, kind of the legacy that Avengers has done. I was thinking back, Matthew, how you mentioned that, and this is one of the ones where I remember going to the midnight release, which we don't have anymore, and how that we talked back at the beginning of the podcast, like how did we feel when this movie came out? I just remember standing there and you're in line. It's like a midnight show, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like we get to see all these characters and everything else. You know, um, how do we feel about the crossovers since then? Like, what kind of legacy has this thing left behind?
I think this is a great crossover movie. I love this movie. In the scope of the MCU, I think I said this at the top of the podcast. I think this is a top 10 MCU film still to this day. I would make the argument that it's top five. If for me personally, it's number four. In the scope of superhero movies as a whole, I think there's better team up movies since this. I think it was a great foundational work, but just 2 years later, we got X-Men Days of Future Past. I'm a bit of a sucker for Days of Future Past and X-Men as a whole. I think that's one of the best team up movies of all time, probably the second best team up movie we've ever gotten. Tying the newer characters, or at least the newer portrayal of characters, um, and the older Fox X-Men films from the early 2000s together in a beautiful time travel story. Um, so I think Avengers really put confidence into filmmakers to try
Oh, definitely.
uh, team up movies more frequently. And obviously, we got Avengers Ultron, Age of Ultron, 3 years after this one. So clearly, Marvel was like, well, we can definitely do it again, and we're going to keep doing it until it fails. And it hasn't failed since
Yeah.
this
Well,
first
Kevin
Avengers.
Feige basically said he knew he was going to do this, and that's
Yeah.
why I give so much credit to Kevin Feige.
hmm
And I said at the beginning of this, like, no one would do this because it puts all of the franchises, not just the team up franchise, but each individual franchise at risk. And
hmm
before this movie, the people who behind the scenes, the people who count dollars, and that's all they do. They don't have vision. They don't take risks, and they said no. But Kevin Feige said, "I'm doing it anyway,"
Right.
and he did it, and he proved that it could be done. And the reason that other team up movies don't always work is a lot of times just because they don't set it up properly. What Kevin Feige was so brilliant with was his patience rather than going straight to the Avengers. This was the sixth Marvel movie because, there were two Iron Man movies, there was a Hulk movie, and there was wait, this was am I missing something?
I
No,
thought
Oh
this
no,
was the
there's
Thor.
America, Thor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but basically this was
Yeah.
in all as you said earlier, this was basically another origin story. This is the origin of the Avengers, even though we've already had origin stories of each of these characters.
No, I think it definitely set the bar for these kind of crossover movies. It set a precedent, and it set an expectation. Like, wow, this was done really well, and so I think it gave future, I don't know, producers, directors, something to live up to in that sense. That you know the future ended up generating some other really good crossover ones, I think, as a result of this. I mean, I don't know that there was one that took the entertainment industry by storm the way this one did, as far as a team up.
Well, we could go back to it comes down to the writing. I mean, again, it was characters who had conflict and different backgrounds, and then they came together at the end because they realized what the most important thing was. And then you look at another film like Justice League, and it's just like Batman's like, okay, we have to work together, and they're all like, oh, fine, like there wasn't that like that um coming together like we have to do this, let's be a team. They were just
There
kind of
wasn't that
forced into it.
conflict to resolve first. Yeah, the
Yes.
conflict
Yeah.
among them.
Well, that's also ties back to the patience that Kevin Feige showed because
Right.
he was patient enough to do a bunch of one-off movies with each of these characters so that everyone knew who they were before he put them all together. And DC saw this saw the Avengers and was like, "Well, we're going to do this." So they
Yeah,
had
we got
Man
to
of
do
Steel
this too.
already.
Yeah.
Now they did Batman versus Superman, and they put three people in it. And then they did the Justice League, where everyone was in it, but there was no setup. Wonder Woman didn't have her movie yet. By the time Batman versus Superman came out, Batman never got his standalone movie with Affleck. Um, the Flash didn't get a movie until later. All of them had their own standalone movies afterward, after Justice League was a huge disappointment and went nowhere. So,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
setup of this, the setup by six prior movies,
yeah.
definitely, I think, factored into the success of this team up movie. Yeah.
So watching this movie in 2026, and we've already kind of touched on it. How do you feel like this thing holds up? Avengers.
um I think it's still a strong movie. uh there's definitely still some 2010s early 2000s writing, and what I mean by that is that like someone always has to make some silly little cliche line said, but other than that it's a strong film.
I think it being a comic book movie, the cliche lines are expected.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think this is easily in my top 10 of favorite MCU movies. I really would have thought that it would have been number one until powerhouses came out like Infinity War. And as much as I love Infinity War and Endgame, even they aren't my favorite because my favorite, should I end the suspense? My favorite Marvel movie of the entire MCU to date is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Mm.
And
But
That's a
I am in 100% agreement with you on that one. Other
that
than the
is.
team up movies. Other than the team up movies.
Oh, see, this, I would say, even in addition to the team up movies, that is my favorite movie. And that's not to take away anything from any of the other movies. Like I said, Infinity War is such a phenomenal movie that I can't stop gushing about it. But I still like Captain America: The Winter Soldier more. But but that's my opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own.
It's definitely top five. Or let's say top three. It's right there.
Avengers 1. Is that what you're referring to, Michael?
No, Winter Soldier. But
Oh,
Avengers 1, I think is on my top 5 or top 10. No, my top 5. Because it's like it's for me personally, it's a when Comic-Con comes around, it's a Comic-Con movie you got to watch before you go to Comic-Con. You got to watch those. There's like those little like movies that give you the feeling of like, oh, we're gonna go dress up and go be nerds together. And Avengers 1 is one of those movies for me.
Amateur. If I was going to go to a Comic-Con, I'd watch all of them.
I'm just saying it's one of the. I have a list. I have this huge list right now of what movies are Comic Con movies. So,
Yeah, I
I,
don't, but that's okay.
I, I
oh,
don't
okay.
do
Well, we'll have you.
I
We'll
don't,
have you write one out next time, and then you're going to tell us before we do anything else.
I don't do Comic-Con, but if I did, yeah, I would watch every single movie. No bathroom breaks, no food. You could just drag my coffin there.
Heather, where would you rank this in your pantheon of MCU movies or superhero movies?
I don't know if I have a ranking of
Okay.
superhero movies.
Oh
I
my
really enjoyed it.
goodness!
I am not. My movie tastes are much broader, I think, than some of you guys.
So you have
But
some homework for the next podcast.
but Josh made me watch all of the ones up before Endgame. So it was a curated tour through the Marvel universe leading up to Endgame. So I have seen them all. Superhero movies are not my go-to. That's all. But I really did enjoy this one. I really do enjoy how they bring everybody together. I like the themes in there of like the conflict and resolving the conflict to work together and accomplish the goal. So I like that stuff. Feel good movies.
I think that I believe that how we feel about Avengers, again, talk about seeing it in the theater and how big it was and all those feelings. And like Michael said, it's like we have a Comic-Con list. Galaxy Quest is on there too, just as an aside. But
A lot of
anyway,
Star Trek, Star
like
Wars.
yeah. So, but it's I think that Avengers and it's I feel bad for people who didn't get to see it in the theater and experience that time of what these movies meant and how they made us feel and how it kind of brought a lot of people together. All new, we started with Iron Man. All these people who were not comic book people got introduced to all these characters and the lore and everything else that a lot of us who were comic booky people, at least a little bit, grew up with. I mean, when we were in 7th and 8th grade, I was buying Web of Spider-Man when he got the symbiote suit, you know what I mean? And that type of thing. And then you get to see all that now. It's just awesome. But also you've got a new group of people, whether they started reading comic books or not is it doesn't really matter more than it's like all these people have just become invested and I think that the MCU at the time was really what going to the movies was all about. Suspension of disbelief, going in there, just pure entertainment, enjoying it, characters you can believe in, the good guy conquering the bad guy. It was, that's what it's always been about. And I think Avengers capping off phase 1 was just the quintessential movie. I thought it was great, and watching it again it's just as good as was when I first saw it in the theater.
So I think that's everything we have to talk about with the Avengers. Love this movie. I'm probably going to watch it again. Why not? Next week, we are going to be coming back, slowing things down a little bit with Iron Man 3. This is a movie that I think a lot of people have mixed feelings on. I have mixed feelings, but I do love it. So I'm looking forward to that. Hope you can tune in. If you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe. I want to thank all of our hosts on this show. And as always, make tomorrow better than yesterday.